one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda, we have our 2012 tax rate hearing.
Yes, I put up on the board behind you there what our rates were for last year, 2011-12. Our incidental fund, Fund 1, the tax levied there was $1.84.21, okay? And the teacher fund always has $1.18 as a tax. We've set that for years and years and years. And 26 cents is our debt service. So last year's total levy was $3.2821. All right. For this year, in the incidental fund, our tax rate has gone up just a minute amount. You can see there from 2821 to 2892, and so very, very small increase overall. And in our incidental fund, you can see we've gone from 1.8421 to 1.8492. This is not a reassessment year. We did have a bit of growth in our assessed valuation, about $10 million growth from $319 million to $329 million. And if we look at the county average for all the schools in the county, that's $3.93. And so you can see that our school, St. Genevieve, is significantly less than the average in the county. Now, other schools that are included in our county, we have out to the west, we have Farmington. Up to the north, we have North County and DeSoto. So if you look at all of those, their rates are considerably higher than ours, and we come in right at the bottom. Even with our increase, we're still one of the lowest in the whole region. So. Yeah, that's right. We do have a little bit of Park Hills. That's right. So anyway, that is what has been recommended. Those calculations have gone to the state auditor's office, been checked and approved and sent back. So we should be good to go. That would be my recommendation for our tax rate for this year. Then. If you care to look in your board packet, there is a history of our tax rate and our assessed valuation and railroad and utilities, which is a combination of all of that that's in the district as well. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to entertain them at this point.
I move to set the operating levy at $3.00292 and the debt service level at 0.26 cents for a total levy of $3.2892 for the 2012-13 school year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And for all of you out there, we get our board packets on Wednesday before our meeting on Mondays, and we had a chance to look at this budget. So if you feel that we're not asking enough questions, we have plenty of time to get a hold of Mrs. Jokerst about them. So I just want to let everybody know that. Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda of the August 20, 2012 regular meeting. Second.
The motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Next is the approval of the consent agenda items.
Move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Okay, the motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next we have public participation.
Good evening. I am Tina Overly, representing the SGNEA, and I'd like to give you an update since May, when I was here last. The first thing is, during the summer, a few of our officers attended a summer academy leadership training, and there we learned about bargaining, membership. We learned about some things for the ESPs, and also budgets of how they run, which is all new to me. So I'm glad Mrs. Jokers has this to deal with. And then August the 13th, our work day, the SGNEA served luncheon to our new teachers and some of our new members, and they seemed to really enjoy that. It gave them a time for me to see who they were and get to talk with them and allow them to see and have the opportunity that we are a caring and friendly district. And then also on their back to school in service, which was on the 14th, the SGNEA provided donuts and fruit. Even though it was held in the PAC building, I think the teachers were very respectful that they couldn't take food and drink into the auditorium, and they did very well. They definitely enjoyed the little sweet treats. And then also we provided goodie bags for our members and also for the ESP, which we've gone wall to wall with them. So we kind of got little things together for all of our members. And then also, this was brought to my attention this evening that we received a thank you card, so I would like to reciprocate to the administration and the board. Thank you for giving us a thank you for the retirement dinner of our participation. We do appreciate being a part of that. I know each year we donate some for the attendance prizes, so I hope we can continue to be a supporter of that. And I'd like to thank Mrs. Jokers and Dr. Lindsay for giving us a positive back to school in service. It was very nice, and the fact that we were over in the PAC building, comfortable chairs, and that just it was very uplifting. And so I'd like to share with everyone here and the audience a phrase that Mrs. Jokers shared with the faculty, and it's something that I plan on moving forward with. Keep calm and carry on, especially with all of the new technology we have. I think we need to keep that in the forefront, and also since we are here working together with the students' education as our #1 priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go on, I don't think we've introduced, and no, I know we haven't.
I don't have a name tag either.
Well, by golly, then we're going to introduce you. For everyone out there, this is our new Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Jeff Lindsay. Mr. Lindsay?
I've met almost everyone.
Welcome to Educator. We're excited to have you. And we know that you both are an awesome team together. Yes. We also have a new elementary principal, Miss Peggy Hitt.
That's right.
Okay, and we welcome you also. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the report of the superintendent, Mrs. Jokers.
Yes, we do have one note of appreciation. I bring this to your attention. I hope you all took note of that. It's one of our graduates who received a scholarship, and really appreciate when those kids show the good manners and good breeding to send a thank you note. I think that's very appropriate. The start of school enrollment, we started on the very first day. Our enrollment was 1,899. And that's 5 down from last year. It was at 1,904. So we're just right there at about the same place. We got some more in today, so you know that number's already obsolete. It changes day to day at this point in the year, you know. So anyway, first day by all accounts went beautifully. Mr. Crowther came in and said, I stopped at the high school and looked around. He said, it could have been any random school day. You wouldn't have ever known it was the first day of school. A lot of the commons was quiet. There was only one injured football player sitting in there, and the halls were clear, and it was all business as usual. So kudos to you, Mr. Haney, and to all the other principals. Your buildings were equally calm, cool, and collected. and really appreciated that. It was a great start. Mr. Haney sent me a wonderful statistic, because he loves those, that said that in advisory, the first day of school, we handed out 1.3333 net books per second in advisory. I thought that was pretty cool. So it did go, that handout went amazingly smoothly. Many kudos to the tech staff who worked long hours getting those ready, getting them sorted by advisory teacher, getting all the names on everything, getting it, yes, there are glitches, yes, the kids are having to come in and get a few things tweaked here or there, but overall, resounding success on that handout and the first day or two's implementation. I would say probably the only fly in the ointment was at the end of the day, trying to get everybody on the right bus and in the right vehicle and meeting their parent at the right place, and but that was really no more than is typical for the very first day of school. And today was beautiful. We had the buses out of here before 3:15, and we were finished at the bridge in the back by 3:17. It just doesn't get much better than that, especially on day 2 of the school year. So, I think everything's going really well. Start of school, I think we can mark that down as a big success. The maintenance and housekeeping, everything looked beautiful. Keith and his crew of maintenance guys and the housekeeping, led by Brian Kreider, our head custodian. As always, the facilities were spick and span, top notch. Everything that could possibly be finished was finished. I think the only thing, and I'm not sure, do we have glass yet in the doorway in the nurse's office at the we're still waiting on a piece of glass. There's the big door that's got a door on one side and the little painted glass. They sent us a 3-foot wide painted glass for a 2-foot wide opening. And so we've had to send that back. And that's, I think, really just about the only incomplete project from the summer. So very much appreciation to those folks and how hard they work. They have done a great job. You can see the in-service agenda in your packet. We focused a lot on the differentiation in literacy strategies, trying to help kids read well, understand what they read in every subject area, not just the reading teachers at the elementary, but everybody. If you have anything you want kids to read, as a teacher, you need to kind of make sure to give them the strategies to know how to best read that and get the most out of it. So that was our main focus. Certainly we had some other breakout sessions, and Ms. Overly mentioned my Keep Calm and Carry On. When I went to London this summer, I was at the Churchill War Rooms, and we came out, and in the gift shop there's all these posters and mugs and everything that says Keep Calm and Carry On. Well, I thought that was pretty cool, and I thought as a new superintendent that was probably a pretty good idea to keep in my head, So I bought myself a little coaster, and then I got to researching it. That little phrase was a part of a set of 3 posters that came out in World War II, and only 2 of them were published in Britain. The first 2 were your positive attitude and support will help us win the war, and some upbeat kinds of things like that. And they had them all over London and throughout Great Britain. The third one was never released, and that was the Keep Calm and Carry On, and it was only to be released if the Germans overtook Great Britain, invaded London, and so since that never happened, that poster was actually lost for a long time and has only been recently resurfaced. And so while we didn't have a German invasion, we did get invaded by a whole lot of little people, and Keep Calm and Carry On was the word of the day, and we did a great job at that, I think. Everybody kept their head, and we got through everything just fine. So that was the in-service day, I think, went very well. Everybody seemed to do well with that. And actually we got a lot of positive comments on having the work day on the 13th. You all remember that as a change to our calendar. Instead of having another in-service day later in the school year, we put a strictly work day. It was for teachers to come in and work in their classrooms and prepare, and I think a lot of positive remarks from that. So that seems like a good plan. We may tweak it a little bit to try to put it in a place where it actually helps people get ready for the open house factor that happens at the elementaries right there in that first week. So we'll look at that at the calendar time. Construction update, I think we can just about strike that off our list. Things are complete. Everything is good to go. So that is my report.
Great. Does anyone have any questions, comments? Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business. First is the annual performance report review.
Yes, this is Dr. Lindsay's ballpark.
And it's really good that the very first thing that I get to talk to you about is something that's so positive. We got our results from the annual performance report. The final version was released earlier this month, and I'm pleased to tell you that again, St. Genevieve R2 was 14 out of 14 on meeting the standards. So very positive results. Again, MAP scores are consistently high. End of course scores are consistently high. Attendance was another area that was really good. Advanced courses, again, also really good. So, unless you have questions, I mean, 14 out of 14 is as good as you can get. There is kind of a caveat to that, and I know you all are used to 7 years in a row now of distinction and performance. And as a part of the next agenda item, I'll talk a little bit about distinction and performance because it's going away for a while. And so even though perfect APR, 14 out of 14, the state has decided to not recognize districts for distinction and performance, and I'll talk a little bit more about that with the next item. So unless you have questions.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the MSIP 5 report.
MSIP 5 report, as you may or may not know, the state is going through a pretty significant transition of the Missouri School Improvement Program process. And it's the 5th cycle now, and it's hard to believe that it's been around that many versions at this point. But the 5th cycle is getting ready to begin. And due to the changes for the 5th cycle, plus the No Child Left Behind waiver that the state submitted and was approved by the federal government, the changes to MSIP 5 compared to MSIP 4 are significant. Many changes that will affect a lot of areas. One thing that one major change, the adequate yearly progress reports that you've been used to getting in schools in need of improvement and those sorts of things, which was based on the same scores that had led to your wonderful APRs. That's now gone. So there will be no more adequate yearly progress reports. The letters that had to be sent to parents and all that stuff is gone as a part of the No Child Left Behind waiver. So that is a very positive thing. So what that means then is that now, because of the waiver, both the state and federal accountability will be based on the APR. And that's another reason why it's led to some very significant changes, because it had to be approved by the federal government in order to meet both state and federal standards. Okay. What they're going to do is they're going to give it a test drive, and that information will be available October 1st. And they're going to take this past year's data and run it through the new system, just to give districts a feel for where they stand. Okay, the new system is much more rigorous. Test scores, that sort of thing, carries a higher percentage in the overall scoring. Okay, so they're going to, like I said, they're going to test drive it October 1st, so districts will have a feel for it. There will be some opportunity to provide some feedback to the state, and then they're going to release the final version December 1st, because there's still some things that they're working out, some of the issues. So because of that, the state has decided, and believe me, it's not our decision, But the state has decided there will be no distinction in performance recognition for districts until 2014-15. And what they're saying is that because of the new system, they want 3 years of data before they recognize districts for distinction in performance. So they want this year, 12-13, 13-14, and 14-15. And then the recognition would actually come in the following. It would be based on those 3 years of data. I don't know why they couldn't have taken this past year's data and went ahead and recognized districts, you know, as you're used to receiving. But they chose not to do that. The 2014-15 year is also the first year that they will use the data for accountability or for accreditation purposes. Okay, so that's when accredited with distinction, fully accredited provisionally, so on and so forth, will not be determined by the state until after the 14-15 school year. There was quite a bit of information that was in your board packet. After that, I don't care to go through that, but I won't read it to you either, because you have it there. There are a couple significant changes that I would point out. One thing is that with map testing, that they're going to consider what they call a full academic year, and that is students, it's some correction to the issues that districts have had with students transferring in and out and their test scores actually counting when they had actually been there for the education in your district. So there is some correction to that they're looking at. The MPI scores, or Math Performance Index scores, they're changing that and providing some greater incentive for moving students out of the below basic, the lowest level. So there's a little added incentive for moving those students up to at least basic, which is a difference or a change. The subgroups that we've always had in the past with free reduced lunch and IEP students and so on and so forth, those are being replaced with one, what's called a super subgroup. So all those students go into to one score basically, and there's no duplicate counts of students. Because in the past, if you had a student that was an IEP student and a free reduced lunch student, then you got hit both places. And with the new system, they have corrected that. So that will be another plus. Another major change: advanced courses. In the past, the focus has been on completion of advanced courses, or enrollment in advanced courses. Now the focus has switched to completion of advanced courses. That has potential for a fairly significant impact on us, because in the past, they basically counted the number of students enrolled in advanced courses in your high school. So in other words, if they were in calculus class, and there were 7 students in there, then that counted as 7 students enrolled in an advanced course. And they took the total number of credits and divided by the number of credits in the advanced courses to get your advanced course score, basically. The new requirement is not enrollment in courses like that. It's going to be completion of things like advanced placement courses, international baccalaureate courses, and I don't believe we have either one of those in this district. Technical skills analysis or college credit. One interesting thing is that all of those things cost money. And so we're going to have to make a decision at some point as to how we want to tackle that. Once we get the new numbers that come out, the test drive in October, then we'll have a little better feel. And there's a potential that some of that may get changed too, because I know that was a concern that was brought up at the Commissioners Advisory Council meeting that was expressed pretty strongly. A concern about every one of those things being something that costs dollars for the student, for the district. Attendance will be looked at totally differently. In the past, it was an overall attendance percentage. Now the standard is that 90% of your students attend at least 90% of the time. So it's a different kind of way of looking at things. Total point possible, we're used to having 14 standards that you either meet or don't meet. The new way of doing things is 150 total points. 80 of that will come directly from test scores, either through your regular academic or through subgroups. Career and college readiness will be 30 points, attendance will be 10 points, and then graduation rate will also be 30 points for a total of 150. To get distinction, you have to get 90% or more of the points. So you have to have 135 points. Plus, you have to meet other criteria that they haven't decided on
Yeah.
yet. Okay?
We
We're
have
gonna
3
take
years
that.
to get
We're
there.
gonna take the hill and we'll go past the ammunition, now that gets
Yeah,
down.
there you go. So we were at a meeting where the commissioner was there this summer, the DESI conference. And so I asked, I said, what kind of things are you looking at with these other criteria? And they said it was likely to come from resource and process standards. So things like maybe staffing ratios or class sizes or some of those kinds of things. So in other words, in order to get credited with distinction, it's based on more than just flat out performance on the new APR. It's that plus these other things. To be accredited, you have to have 70% or more, and I don't think there's any point in us even talking about provision or not accredited. Basically, implications for us, we've got to continue to emphasize high performance on math and EOC. That's been the name of the game for a while and will continue to be. But we also have to be looking to the future in the transition to Common Core and smarter balanced assessments. So we're going to have to kind of juggle those two as we move forward. We have to take a hard look at AP, IB, and college courses. And like I said, we'll have a better feel for that after the test drive comes out in October. Another thing that changed, and that is ACT, SAT, Compass, and ASVAB are now weighted, and they're including SAT, Compass, and ASVAB, which they have never done before. And the ASVAB is the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, and they're still not sure exactly how they're going to handle the weighting on that. It's something they're still working on.
Did you go on? Is that right?
Yeah, Compass is the,
Help a little bit, so they weren't counted before.
Yeah, we have a lot of
Yeah.
kids who go to JUCO first and they take the Compass rather than the ACT, and so, yeah, that could be helpful to us.
so, a lot of changes. We still don't know exactly what the final version is going to look like, although we do know that it's going to be vastly different from what we're used to.
Does it have the appearance of being more realistic, No Child Left Behind? There's No Child Left Behind.
Not seeing the final version, the difference is that, we had the state accountability system, which we did very well at, and then we had the federal accountability system with the AYP sort of thing. Now we have this new accountability system that counts for both. So in some respects, I think that's a very good thing, because you don't have to send mixed messages to your public, for one thing. But it's also, it's going to be much more difficult to be accredited with distinction under the new system than it was under the old system. And I think that's intentional.
They're gonna stay at the 90% then, right?
Excuse me?
They're gonna stay at the 90%?
I don't think that that's something that they're debating. I think that 90% is probably written in stone.
Anyone else have any questions? Thank you, Dr. Lincoln. We'll move on to new business. First is NU Educator Evaluation Pilot. Ms. Coleman.
This is, comes as a result of the state request for a waiver of many of the strictures of No Child Left Behind. Dr. Lindsay just mentioned that what we have now is a single accountability system, And part of that came from the fact that we applied for, as a state, the waiver of some of the things that were required under No Child Left Behind, such as the many different subgroups and the school improvement and all the letters we had to send out and the school improvement plans we had to write and all those things that everybody went through. You know, many of those things we're relieved of those things now. But there were also some requirements that came with that waiver that, you know, if you want these things, you got to do these things. And, you know, there's always that caveat. Well, that thing that we have to do as a state is that we have to revise our teacher evaluation system, not just our teacher evaluation system, that's really wrong, principals and superintendent evaluation system as well. All of our educator evaluation systems within the state have to be revised and they have to be aligned to 7 basic standards. The state has developed a model that MU has also working on a model that they're all based on the same thing. MU's has a lot more of a technical slant with a state database that we'd be able to do some comparative analysis with. So in other words, MU's kind of piloting some tools to use with this state educator pilot. So what I've asked is that our administrators have been to training on this pilot. Probably more training than any of us ever had in using the old system, I would venture to say, because usually you got kind of a day and that was about it. And so then you just kind of had a lot of on-the-job training as you went and did it and hoped for the best. This is nothing like that. One of the components is that the people who are implementing the evaluation system have to be trained. Ultimately, there will be training for superintendents who evaluate principals. There will be training for you all who evaluate superintendents. So, you know, leave no evaluator untrained. That's the new thing. So I have asked, because they've been to training, I've asked our administrative staff to do a presentation about the new MU model because they are very knowledgeable about it. So you're on, guys.
Okay. Actually, I kind of forgot we were supposed to do this.
I really don't know, they haven't given us any information.
Basically, it comes down to DESE's giving school districts 4 options. You can purchase the system, you can use their model, you can come up with your own, or you can join, it's called the Network for Educator Effectiveness, right? NEEs, you can join the NEE. So those are your 4 options. And we went to 4 days of training this summer.
For long.
And it was an online class, right?
It was, we were supposed to, but since we're the beta group, we're learning. And we were the first group to take session 1. So when we went back for session 2, and you know, Chris is right, it was long. It was from 8 until 4 every day. And so we're the beta group. So when we all went together, and then Scott was on his Alaskan cruise, so he went a few weeks after we did. And when we went back for our second session, they were already changing and tweaking some things that they had found wrong in the first session. So, you know, we're a work in progress. So when Shelley talked to us about it, we were kind of like, do we want to be on the ground floor? We felt like it was a great idea. That way we had some input in where MU took this. We could give them feedback. They're very open and they want that dialogue and they want that discussion. I think we've already gotten 3 or 4 emails since the 1st of August asking about what's going on, what we need. They're very good about communicating with us. So with this new system, there are 5 components, and you guys are going to have to help me. Student achievement is 1. Teacher evaluation. And there are 2 components to the teacher evaluation. There's mini classroom observations, which are like 10-minute quick snapshots, the walkthroughs. And then there's the full-blown evaluations. And then you take all of that information and it'll dump into a summative. So, you don't have to rewrite what you've seen all year. It's all there for you. Student surveys, so unit of instruction. So that means teachers will have to upload units of instruction when they finish, and we evaluate it and grade it, if you will. But they'll know those 10 criteria. And then there is a professional development plan component, which is 10 more things that we will evaluate on. So those are the 5. And right now, they have all of those weighted equally. Nothing has greater value, nothing has less value. Right now, it's just all equal, all 5 components. Their whole purpose behind this system is that so if a teacher at St. Joe, a 5th grade teacher at St. Joe leaves St. Joe in Missouri and comes to Bloomsdale, Missouri and is teaching at Bloomsdale, Lori will be evaluating that teacher the same way that the principal at St. Joe did. That way it's consistent across the state. And that's what the training is about. The training is about calibrating and making sure that you're evaluating and you're seeing the same things and you know what to look for on those criteria.
The other standard towards the calibration is Mizzou's simple philosophy in this, and what they're trying to convince the state of, and one of the reasons why I like the Mizzou pilot is because they're working with the state, but they actually have a point to what they're doing. They're saying, look, we can only go so far with student achievement. You talked earlier about the realistic of No Child Left Behind. We all knew 100% was not, we weren't going to get there. And part of Mizzou's component in this is saying, let's compile data on teacher evaluation, and let's start to show what practices make successful students, what practices really drive education, because we don't have that information currently. We don't really have what things do and don't impact learning more. And those schools that are doing it right, that are getting good evaluative scores and good student scores, that's what we want to reward. And they're starting to look at it from the other side and say, what can we do to drive instructor training, to drive the process? And that's part of what I really like. They have a philosophy, a simple philosophy. This evaluation is about coach you and not catch you. This is about driving better practices, and something that I think if you've ever used or seen the old evaluative tool, it really lacks. Is the old evaluative tool had 3 components: does not, needs, or exceeds. And it didn't take a whole lot to fall into that needs. There's one video that we watched where the guy was insanely dry, but really if you were evaluating him on the old scale, he met. He had classroom control. He delivered the curriculum. The kids were somewhat engaged. They were awake and paying attention. He met. That was what we would have been stuck with. Under the new evaluation on an 8-point scale, we basically are able to look at saying, okay, you're going to get a 3 or 4, and here's what's lacking to drive instruction better in the future. So to me, that was a big issue with me. Sorry.
No, that's what this is about.
You mentioned like a teacher in St. Joe that would move here. Would Lori then have access to her evaluation from St. Joe, or?
If they were part of the 42 piloting schools. So far, there's only 42 piloting schools, and we're going to be able to compare our data to them. And say it's like a 2nd-year teacher at 2nd grade, we're going to compare her data to a 2nd-year teacher at 2nd grade, not to a 28-year teacher. So we can compare similar scores to similar.
No names.
No. Actually, you're comparing them to the statewide 2nd grade teachers at the 2nd year. So what you're doing is you're comparing those average scores on a summative to the average scores for the state in that category, which to me is, again, insanely impressive, because you get a 2nd-year teacher maybe scoring 4s for you, and they're going to kind of beat themselves on the head. You're going to work with them. But then when the state scores come out, we may notice across the board the state average was a 3.8. And now all of a sudden this teacher can kind of feel a little bit better about the work they've been doing, because they're actually, for their age and their time, they're actually a little bit ahead of the game. And the other thing I like about this, speaking about the comparisons, is before it always seemed like formative was more, we did the formative evaluations, which the whole word is supposed to be formative, to form future instruction. But it seemed like a finite thing. If you gave one, the teachers want to know, what did I do well, and did I pass? And so you basically gave several formative or several summatives throughout the year. This is a summation of this is a summation of this, and then now here's another summation at the end. It didn't really make a lot of sense to me when I was doing it. What this does is this says, okay, through the year, we're going to give you these scores and several different breakdowns. Julie mentioned some full-blowns and some walkthroughs. So we're going to give you scores in various varieties so you can see and collect a picture. For your summative, that's going to be a comprehensive report of what you did with comparisons of how other people at your level are doing. So it truly is formative to drive instruction, and then it's summative to demonstrate where you're at in comparison to other teachers at that level.
And the other component that I really like, when you have a tenured teacher, you're only truly evaluating every 3 years. With this system, you do those mini walkthroughs, you do those mini observations, even on their off-cycle year. So all of that walkthrough information you're gathering is put into the database, and it's pulled when it comes to their evaluative year, and it goes into the reports. So you have that data sitting out there too. So you're actually looking at your tenured teachers more, which I like a
So
lot.
the teacher's been told of the change.
In our in-service, if you looked at one of the breakout sessions, was about that, and I think it was pretty highly attended, if I'm not mistaken.
The second one
I think they
especially
were
was.
hanging from the rafters, is the way I understand it. But the thing to remember here is that we're trying to get your approval to be a part of this pilot, but what we would like to do then is to reconvene the teacher evaluation revision committee that we had in place last year, okay? And we studied a lot of stuff that this very system is based on, the Robert Marzano work on effective classroom instruction and things of that nature. We studied that stuff, the art and science of teaching and all of that stuff. But when we knew that the state was developing a model, we kind of said, okay, let's wait and see what you guys are going to do before we plow ahead so that we don't get off track. So we're going to reconvene that committee. And these guys are going to go over all of the information that they've been given about the new system. And what we'd like for them to do, there are criteria that the system will be based on, and how the things that we'll look at to evaluate our teachers. And we want that committee to help with that, to talk about, okay, some different categories of teachers, like they've been talking about, okay, beginners, like first and second year teachers, intermediate teachers, years 3 to 5, tenured teachers out here, you know, and what will the evaluation system look like as far as how many walkthroughs, how many full-blown observations are happening at each level, because obviously it needs to look different if you're a first or second year teacher or if you're a 20-year veteran. I mean, it really shouldn't look the same, and right now it does, essentially. So we want the committee to be a part of that. So when you ask, have the teachers been told, they know that the waiver has come across, they know that we are required to revise our system, they know these things that you know, we don't really have a whole lot of choice about. What we do have a choice about is being involved in this pilot and giving feedback and helping to shape and mold and craft what we'll ultimately wind up with. So I wanted to throw it back to you guys, though, to talk a little bit about the whole criteria aspect of it.
There are 7 total criteria with 27 indicators? 32 total, but 27 that are
7
actual
indicators and 32
standards that are actual part of the evaluative. And what we're basically, MU recommends working on about 8. Okay, so that's one of the things that will go to the committee, is we have this whole pool to pick from. What do we view as important that we want to select as possibly our 8? And we're not set on 8, but something else the committee has to explore and decide which ones are key to what we feel like is part of our mission and vision, and selecting those and evaluating on those. So that's all what's got to come out of the committee.
Well, and MU, in the training, kept saying 32 indicators are there. If you're doing a full-blown evaluation, and some of those indicators are in regard to student discipline and behavior in the classroom, you know, he kept saying if you're doing an full-blown evaluation and you're sitting there and the kids are swinging from the lights and throwing things, then you pull those discipline, management, and behavior out, and you use them, because that is an issue and you need to address it. You don't ever ignore anything. They're all there for your use, but to sit there and try to evaluate all 32 at once would probably drive you. You just couldn't do it. You wouldn't have enough time.
We've got trained on 6, is that right? And that was pretty intensive. And it was there's a range in what goes on in the classroom within the 6 we were trained on, feasibly 8, that really do encompass the whole thing. So when we talk about cutting it back from 32 to 8, they really are intensive.
The indicators you're talking about are part of the teacher eval.
Yes.
Actually.
Well, actually, I think every level has
Every level
a series
has
of them.
a series of indicators.
five that
The
you were
principals
talking about.
and the superintendents all have a certain number of standards and indicators then that go with each of those standards, and an evaluative scale for each of those indicators, and
Yeah.
it is a very detailed system.
And basically, one of the things they're advocating, before you could just check a little box and move on. Yep, met it, good. Now what they're advocating is anytime you give a score, because of those standards, because of that criteria over there, you will be able to, you should be able to be telling the teacher, this is what you need to do at the next level. That this is what I failed to see, or I saw this well, but this is what kept it from, you know, a 4 from being a 5, or a 5 from being a 6 in those coachable moments. And again, that's part of what I love about it, is it just lends itself to driving better instructional practices.
So you can give them that feedback right away versus at the end.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're even kind of kicking around a system, and again, this has all got to go through committee and see. We're even kicking around a system that in some of that they would have that feedback pretty much. So by the time as I hit the submit button, it would be getting to them. And then if they needed a verbal sit down or whatever, I could recommend they could ask for it. We could follow up that way as well. So yeah, there's parts of that system that could really lend themselves to immediate feedback if that's how we chose to go.
Through the process of explanation, starting with Dr. Lucy going to the building principals, it's been mentioned, as it says in this proposal here, that all schools in the state must revise their teacher evaluation system. And I believe Dr. Lindsay gave 4, or one of the administrators gave 4 different ways you can go, right? And I remember the days when we came up with the one, and it was rather grueling at that time. The interesting thing on here also in the recommendation is participation in the pilot project will allow members of the district to have a role in the creation of the new system. Now, I'm assuming that that means administrators, and as Mr. Haney, you have pointed out, there's a committee with teachers, so the teachers will be actively a part of, you know,
Yes,
kind of
their
developing
feedback
this.
is very much desired by the state.
Yeah.
We went to the superintendent's conference and we attended teacher evaluation, principal evaluation, superintendent evaluation, and we heard again and again and again and again. Please participate in the pilot. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from everyone. We need the feedback. We want to know how to make this thing work. So yes, the teachers' feedback, the principals, all of us, they want to hear from us about how we feel about the tools and how we feel about, you know, the workability of the system and the standards and all of that.
So in the rafter-filled meeting that you had, where a lot of teachers attended this, they probably, or most definitely, are aware that they can be a part of this and give input to the administration and to the people that are on the committee as to which direction it's going.
I think that's correct. These guys are the ones who led that meeting, and so.
I don't think in the past it was so much that way.
No, not really.
And actually, I would just check with them. I think all of us at our back to school meeting informed the staff that we would be pulling back those people from the committee last year who they had voted to represent them, and that we would be bringing them back together for this. So the staff, at least my staff, I know, was informed directly of who their candidates were, and that we would be using them within the committee.
If there's any questions, concerns, gripes, shall we say,
They
on,
could-
for example,
they-
your building committee, a person that's not on the committee can go to the committee person to voice that with you.
And that's why like with me, I refresh my staff on who those, I have 3 individuals on that committee, and who those 3 individuals are, yes, sir.
This program itself is only to help the teachers or administrators get better. It's only going to better them.
Absolutely.
In fact, this one probably has a better focus on teacher evaluation as professional development than any system I've seen had used on me or have used. It has a lot more of what Chris calls coachable moments. It has a lot more of, like, every indicator has a scale that describes each point on the scale. And so, you know, if Chris says, okay, you're right about here at a 4. And if you would just see these things right here in this descriptor, if you just did this, I didn't see this, and if you would do it, it would move you over here. You know, and never have we had anything so specific and that has the opportunity for such good feedback and to help with growth.
So it has examples, if you want to reach a 5, this is what you would do. If you want to reach a 6.
There's actually videos out there, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
we showed one in the
There's a
thing.
website you can go to get all this information. The PowerPoint we use, the handouts, the timelines, everything's out there.
We could bring up Mr. Dynamic if you want, you could see
No, you
how
can see.
insanely boring.
Well, and on that one, I'd like to tell everybody, when we were watching it, we couldn't figure out for a long time what he was teaching.
Yeah, we
Whether it
had
was
no clue.
technology
We
or
we
what the
were,
heck it
I
was.
think 3 videos worth, and the 3rd video, 30 minutes into it, you finally get a handle on what course he's actually teaching.
It was world.
Prior to that, it's World Geography, and I was betting computer science.
Yeah.
I'd like to move that, to approve participation. What's the most, the same prep a teacher has during the day? You know, like English 1, 4 or 5 times a day, or 2?
It's like the most varied, how many different preps
No,
will
how many, the same prep, they got English 1, how
Common
many times a
plan
day?
possibly, like for example, an English 1 is one of my most
Not just, that's
consistent.
just an example. I
Yeah,
just think
usually about 4 of the same prep would be about the max that I think I have.
See, then you have a different, every class is different. And you may walk into a classroom that is a little bit, has a different type of personality than the other classrooms. And you wouldn't have the same type of engagement that you would have in a different period. I remember when I taught 6th period was my most challenging period of the day. And there was a different type of engagement going on during that class than there was my other 4 or 5 classes.
And
So when you walk in there and you make this determination, are you going to be fair to the instructor? What I'm saying.
well, part of what I love about this system, and I talked a little bit about that boring guy where you'd almost have to give him a meets expectations, because the old ones seem to be you were judging the students as much as you were judging. Now there is a student achievement portion that's out here. It's not part of what I see when I go in the classroom. It's graded separately. What I see when I go in the classroom really is focused on what is that teacher doing? How is that teacher engaging students? What kind of instructional practices is that teacher using? And to me, although you're right, classrooms are like teams, they all take on a little bit of a different character. Those, it seems to me, what I like about it is those fundamental elements, and then again, what the teachers pick of those indicators, those seem to be really geared at what are you doing to instruct? What are you doing to instruct? Are you doing some of those correct things to instruct? Are you engaging students? But what are you doing to engage students? What are you doing to check comprehension? What are you doing? Those things that are just fundamental and sound that come from me, not necessarily what class is doing. Not the good citizenship that's on there now. Not, I forget what some of the other really flaky ones are, but you know, those sort of things. And so I just really think this hits at the art and science of teaching. And therefore it is good across the board. We considered it was sped. We looked at co-teaching videos, and it just seemed to, I mean, it just didn't seem like there wasn't a moment that you could give something back and really assess honestly. And that's also why I go back to our current system. We tend to do 70 to 80 minutes of total evaluation if you're a tenured or a non-tenured in years 3, 4, and 5. This one would actually bump that up to about 150, 200 plus look at units of instruction and stuff like that. So I think Mr. Taylor has a great analogy of what goes on here, and that is because we're doing some frequency, even though the times may be less in some categories, we're doing greater frequency. We're looking at climate versus weather. So I'm getting to see more what goes on overall in that teacher rather than just 2 selected days. And that's another element that I really enjoyed that I think would eliminate that whole, this was a bad day, what do I do? Well, you've got about 10 others
This is
coming.
the 5th period versus this is the 2nd period. They're totally different personalities.
Yeah, and it gives us an opportunity to hit. I mean, realistically, and this could be mapped out by the committee, there could be an expectation of hitting one of each of the, in my building, one of each of the 6 teachable hours, you know, to spread that out. Yes, sir, that's a great point.
I'll say, I'd like to move to approve the participation in the MU Educator Evaluation Pilot.
A motion and second, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Before we completely leave that out, I want to mention that teacher or student achievement is a part of this whole ball of wax because it has to be. The waiver said the only thing that was non-negotiable is that student achievement has to be included in the educator evaluation, somehow, some way, shape, form, or fashion. This is across the board. Every state, as they applied for a waiver, had to deal with the element of student achievement. Some states said it's 50% of the teacher evaluation would be student achievement. Thank God Missouri did not go there. We have no set percentage of how much it has to count in our state, and we have not backed ourselves into the corner of saying it has to be state testing. What we're looking at is growth in student achievement over time. So I think what the state has said as a minimum, you have to look at 2 data points of student performance over time and show improvement from this place to this place. And so we will continue to take guidance from the state and talk to our committee about, you know, how that's going to figure in and what we're going to do there. But
When you're talking committee, are you saying that this, like the, I'm sorry to keep going on, the class or the school district gets to pick those, or we're just looking at picking them because it's still in the evaluative process?
you mean as far as the committee?
Well, what test scores are we going to
Okay.
use? What?
We still, those things are really kind of still under evaluation and under development. Our district committee will set some of those things for us. Okay, that will come together. In the end, after the pilot is said and done, there'll be another presentation of what we come up with as a district and say this is what we're going to go forward with. Right now, we're needing to do some action research, if you will, and come up with some things, some recommendations from our committee, let our administrators work with them, and see where we go from there.
And that's out of what you said that you guys pick from. The committee picks, there's 32.
Oh,
you get to
right.
pick out of that.
Right.
Yeah.
That we will definitely
32
narrow
are
it
given
down.
by the state, and we'll narrow that down
Narrow
to
that.
what the committee decides they should be and how many.
For us.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to the 2012-2013 amended budget.
Yes, and this is, if you'll remember back in the June meeting, we approved last year's budget with the understanding that we would amend the budget in August, and so here it is. I want to point out that at the on the front page, the letter to the board, we do anticipate $322,523 at the time of the writing of that letter as what our projected growth and balances would be. After that point, we had to think about some other things that we're going to add in the district, some other expenses that we're going to have with adding. If you'll look at your agenda, you've got item 7, E, F, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, about 4 or 5 different positions that we need to add and that will come into that total and cut into that total a bit. So we still anticipate coming out in a positive fashion, but it's, as I said, it is a non-reassessment year. We are not seeing large growth in our tax revenues, and so we're at kind of a flat point. But with that being said, I do anticipate a positive balance. If you look on the second page of your budget, you'll see the things that at the time of the writing of this budget, these were the things that we had already agreed to do, and you all had already approved that we would do, and that included such things as some additional Title I positions, adding an assistant principal at St. Genevieve Elementary. That salary is included in this budget. Increasing one of our district office secretarial staff to a full-time position. She was at a half-time position, and we added duties to her to assist the Director of Student Services. We did eliminate some positions last year as well. But looking at special education roles, we may have to rethink that. We also added a part-time PAT person, and we fully funded the salary schedule with everybody being able to move 4 years experience and or additional college hours. So all of that is included in this budget. If you kind of page your way through there, you have some some information from each building, overviews of their enrollments, their projected enrollments, some things that have gone on in their buildings, accomplishments for the year, and then goals for the coming year. So that section is a large proportion of your budget book, up through page 67, in fact. If you get to that point, you'll see our salary schedules as they were approved. And then you get to our 3-year comparisons. Actually, I think Chris has put an extra year of data on here. She was able to massage the program just a little bit after an update and get a little bit further back on this. You can see that I projected that our current taxes will come in about $10,300,000. That's up just a little bit. Last year was $9,955,000. So just a little bit. That's our current local tax money. Okay. We also have a drop though in our collection of this delinquent taxes. Our collection rates have gone down just a little bit. We have a little bit of a drop in Prop C revenues. That's based on sales tax. So we're still seeing a little bit of a struggle there. Financial institution tax comes from banks, and we really only have a couple of local banks anymore. These are banks have kind of gotten wise to this, and they've moved most of their stuff out of the state, and so we don't get as much as we once did. If you look on down, the in lieu of taxes, this is based on the TIF agreement with Wholesome, and look on through there, you see what we anticipate revenues to be from food service. Then you have all of our student accounts. I am on, it says page 4 in the upper right, but it says 76 down at the bottom.
Yeah, 76 at the bottom.
However you want to look at it. Moving on through there, these are other smaller revenues that we get. Page 77 is our basic formula monies from the state. You can see that goes down just a little bit from last year. We look for our special ed funding to be pretty much about the same, Ms. Weiler tells me. Just kind of as a point to make, we get about $400,000. Is that correct? We spend about $2 million on special education in our district. So talk about a drop in the old bucket. That would be it. Look on down, if you would, to on page 78, 21st Century Grant. It's big zeros right now, so that was a 5-year startup grant. Those monies are finished. Ms. Zuspin did apply for a continuation grant. We don't feel very hopeful about that because we hear that priority will be given to schools who are low performing. 14 out of 14 doesn't exactly qualify for low performing, and a high poverty. And while our free and reduced rate has gone up some, it doesn't compare to 75, 80, and 90% that other districts have. So we do anticipate continuing some version of an after-school program on a paid basis where we would offer some after-school only childcare. Wouldn't be before school, and would simply be help with homework, a snack, and some playtime. So be pretty small amount of students, I think, probably will be a part of that. Yes?
Will we charge for that?
Yes. So that's our revenue, and if you look down at the bottom, you see that we do project a small growth in revenue this year, $23,628,122, and last year $23,607,515. So a small growth in revenue. And then you have the 3-year comparison of all of our expenditures. I won't spend a lot of time on that, only to say that most categories have gone up a little bit. That tends to be the way expenditures go. If you look at the very back, the last couple of pages, you can see our debt service schedule on page 139. You see there our principal payment that we'll make this year, what our interest payment will be, and our total debt and our outstanding debt yet to be paid. So that kind of gives you a picture of where we are with our bonds. And some of those, the way we structure our bonds, just kind of so you know, some of them say principal payment 0. We do structure our bonds to be paid that way so that we start off paying interest only on some, and then at that time we're paying the bulk of the principal on others. And then as the bulk of the principal rolls off on those, we start picking up the principal on the ones we were just paying interest on. That's the way we structure it, so that we can keep our 26-cent levy and still maintain our payments. We do have a lease purchase that will be finishing up actually pretty soon. I believe after 2014 the lease purchase comes off of there. The very last page of your budget gives some projections of total year-end balances in all of our funds. You can see that at June 30th, 2012, our total fund balances, all funds taken together, $5,757,573. I do project some growth in that. You see the projected balance for this year. Protecting the growth of our balances is very important, and big reason why is that we are a very heavy locally funded school district. You saw our local taxes were $10 million, and our state revenue is not anywhere close to that, 600 and some thousand, okay? Difference, complete difference. So you have to be sure that you have balances that will get you from your first payrolls in July through to your local money in December and January. So you can't let these balances run short. You have to continue to build them up. Now, what we've had in recent years since Wholesome has come and the TIF agreement is that in October we receive Wholesome's in lieu of taxes money, and that helps us to get to those, to make those payrolls without having to borrow money. In 2014, after that year, they're just going to go on the regular rolls, and their money will come at the same time as all the rest of local taxes after it's been challenged and then released from escrow and all those things that you know they're going to do. All right, we just have to be ready for all of that. So we have to think about protecting our balances and growing our balances. It's not that we are trying to be a profit-making institution here by any means. We're trying to very cautiously plan for the things that we can foresee in our future. Okay, so that's what I project as our budget. Hopefully, we will come in with a strong positive balance. And we also have, as you know, protest from Wholesome is still in the works. Mississippi Lime, sorry. Mississippi Lime protest is still in the works. That money was released to our district last year from the escrow where it was held, and we did last year budget about half of those funds. I do not want to budget and have not budgeted in this year's budget the rest of those funds, because we don't know if they will be released and we can keep them, if we'll have to turn it back, or if there'll be some combination of the two. We get to keep a certain amount and we have to refund a certain amount. Okay, so until we know that, I'm not comfortable to put those funds into the budget. If we had them, probably would have been more favorable in raising base. But at this point, I do not think that that's something that is wise. I think we want to wait till we know something. In meet and confer with both of our groups, we did say that we would come back and talk to our folks about that funding once we get a settlement on that. In speaking with Linda Wagner, she has no projected timeline for that outcome. You know, if you want to talk to people about tax protests, they can be held up for years. So we hope that that's not the case, but we don't want to get out in front of ourselves either. So, all right. So, yes.
Will you be updating us with what you think the balance of the budget will be after any changes we make tonight?
Yes, we can do that. Sure can. Chris can run those projections for us. Yeah, we'll do that next month.
So that June 30th, 2013 projected total $6 million,
Mm-hmm.
that does not include what's left of the Mississippi Lion
No,
challenge.
actually, that's all
That
in there.
does. Okay.
Yeah, there, it's in our balances, it's just
But
not
you haven't
in,
budgeted to spend it.
I haven't budgeted in as revenue or expenditure for this year. It's just sitting there.
Just there.
It's there.
I move to approve
Can I
the.
say something?
Yes,
I
sir.
want to offer a compliment to all the buildings, employees, and parents, and everyone out there. I counted up, in this, there's, I counted 38 pages of improvements and accomplishments in the 4 buildings. Too often, those get overlooked. There's 38 pages. Thanks, folks. Too often that doesn't get out there.
Yeah, that's a
If
good point.
anybody wants to read them, they're here.
That's right, this is a public document, so folks are welcome to read those. And that 38 pages includes all 4 buildings and our special education department. There have been lots of improvements and lots of accomplishments, and they each set goals individually for the coming year. I always appreciate that they are very goal-oriented group.
Be over 38, I think there's over 38. Thanks, all of you.
Absolutely.
Like I said, too often it doesn't get out there, folks. Thanks.
Now, I move to approve the amended budget as presented.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next, we need that kindergarten teacher at St. John Elementary.
Boy, do we ever. As we normally do this, we approve the actual position, the addition of the position itself in open session, and then we deal with the actual personnel filling those positions in closed session, just so that you're aware. But, just, we have 98 enrolled in kindergarten at St. Genevieve Elementary as of the end of the day today. And that includes several new ones even yet today. If I
Exactly,
yes. And they just seem to keep coming. All summer long, anytime anybody was new, they had a kindergartner. If they had kids in school, they had a kindergartner.
Wasn't that a
So,
cold winter?
apparently 5 years ago, it was a cold.
I star.
In 1993, we had the flood. 5 years later, the class of 2011
Right.
started school. That was the largest class we've ever had come through.
That's right.
So,
2000.
there's, I don't know. We were all flooded in and couldn't leave the house. I don't know. But,
Spent a lot of time there.
yeah, you would have thought everybody was tired. Seriously, right now, folks, we're at 24 and 25 kindergartners per class. That is a lot of little people in a class. And those teachers, we've got extra help in their classrooms right now. Just about every one of them's got either Title I aides or somebody trying to help out getting herding them all where they need to go, because they don't know how to walk in lines yet. They don't know how to do anything for the most part. They're interesting. It is my recommendation that we do add one kindergarten position at St. Genevieve Elementary. I've been talking with Ms. Hitt and Ms. Diesel about this on an ongoing basis all summer long as we watch those numbers climb. But you never know until the first day of school when everybody shows up or doesn't show up. Sometimes we get enrollees that never materialize. They've moved over the summer or different things. So you hate to step out there and do that until you know for sure that we have that many live bodies, and we do. So we would like to recommend that. We do have a classroom. Thank goodness it happened this year and not last. Or 2 years ago. I don't know where we'd have put them before the addition out there. So it's really, really nice that we have that option of the new wing. Down in the early childhood, there's 2 classrooms for early childhood, and there was a 3rd room down there, fully outfitted for early childhood education with bathrooms and cubbies and the whole 9. So that is now where we have decided to make that space available for the classroom. So we will have furniture. Keith has assured me he's got tables with adjustable legs and enough chairs, and we can, since we're moving some of these students from some of the current classes, we'll be able to move some chairs and tables and things like that. So we definitely will be able to outfit the classroom, and so that's my recommendation.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve getting that teacher with a but and an and. And the and is, I think that you should be a bravo and commended to you, because I think it's kind of interesting that this district is trying to drastically reduce the numbers of students at that level for the reasons that you mentioned, whereas how many other districts might not do that. So bravo to you. And I think in the future, you have kept the Board of Education informed all along the way that this could be, you waited and you waited and you waited and you've waited till now, tonight, which is the second day of the school year. I think in the future, in an instance like this, maybe you or we could discuss earlier that if you've got to pull the trigger so that we get that person in here at the beginning of the year to get things rolling, we should do that. So I guess the motion is Mr. McDaniel to hire that teacher, but in the future, let's jump on it, give you the authority to jump on that faster so that we get that teacher with those students and those principals.
We
You
can
really
certainly do that.
don't know until the first day of school, right?
Hard to say until then, although I have to admit that probably at open house Tuesday night of last week, we had a pretty good indicator. So, theoretically, we probably could have pulled the trigger a little bit sooner.
Plus, from my standpoint of view, I'd like to have the teacher on board so they can benefit by all the professional development and meeting with the principals and finding out the rules and regulations with their building principals and other staff members as early as possible.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, and this is just okay, given that authority.
Sure. Yeah, that's just a directive to me. It doesn't have to be in the motion necessarily on this particular thing.
I was 75 years ago, too.
Yes, it did. It happens every once in a while, and you would like to think that you would know, and that everybody would bring their kids to kindergarten registration, and everybody would come to screening back in the spring, but they just don't. In fact, the night of open house, we had some calls that people said, "Hey, we heard tonight's kindergarten registration." Well, no, not exactly. It's open house. Did you come to registration? No. Well, are you new in the district? No. Well, you better come on over then.
I had a family live a half mile from Bloomingdale Elementary. And 3 or 4 children. First day of school when they registered.
Sure, yeah. No reason to get in any hurry, I guess.
Go by their house every day.
Yeah.
So depending on what we do tonight,
I'll second.
later, this person will be up and running, hopefully.
Well,
The plan is, decision made tonight, phone calls tomorrow, new teacher in tomorrow and working hard Tuesday, Wednesday. And on Wednesday night, open house for this new kindergarten group, call them, have them all come in, and Thursday, open class. And I know that's fast, but that's a good couple of days for a teacher to focus, and the other kindergarten teachers are excellent help. So I think we'll be able to, we'll get it done.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Terry. Motion. Okay, next, we have added Title 1A at the St. John Elementary.
we have bumper crop of kindergartners. We're also trying to expand the very successful response to intervention program in reading. If you remember last spring, we talked about a large percentage of our kids reading on grade level at the end and above grade level even, and how successful we felt like that was. We'd like to see that expanded into grade 3. And so to do that, we're going to need some more hands. We're going to need some more help. And we had some carryover funds from Title I last year, and we can actually fund this with federal money. So
I move to approve the addition of one Title I-A at St. John Elementary for the 2012-13 school year.
Sorry. Eric?
And a motion and a second, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the expansion of the Title I-A at RIISchool Elementary.
Yes, same thing. We had last year a halftime. We had a full-time and one halftime aide. We'd like to expand that halftime to a full-time position.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor by, a motion and a second, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then we have one last item. You have that on your agenda.
And teacher's aide,
Yeah.
one at St. John Elementary.
Yes. This is actually not a Title I position. This would be a special education position to help with some severe needs students. You know, Mr. Mack, I think that I'm being neglected to write it in, so if you would write it in at the bottom of 7E, if you would write in a recommendation for an additional teacher's aide 1 at St. John Elementary. We do have some very high-need students who have come to us, and we can see that we're going to need some extra help with this.
I make a motion that we add teacher's aide 1 at St. Genevieve Elementary. Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. McDaniel?
I move that the Board of Education hold a closed meeting with a closed record and closed vote following the regular open meeting of September 17, 2012 to be held in the R.W. Thomas Library, 715 Washington Street, St. Genevieve, Missouri, for the purpose of discussing and voting upon the following items of business: legal action, causes of action or litigation, lease, purchase, or sale of real estate, hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting particular employees, scholastic probation, expulsion, or graduation of identifiable individuals, testing and examination materials, preparation for negotiation with employee groups, specifications for competitive bidding until approved or published, sealed bids and related documents until the bids are open, sealed proposals and related documents until all proposals are rejected, or any documents related to a negotiated contract until the contract is executed. Individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment. Records protected from disclosure by law. Records relating to municipal hotlines established for the reporting of abuse and wrongdoing. Confidential or privileged communication with an auditor. Existing or proposed security systems and structural plans of district property. Records identifying would allow unauthorized access to or unlawful disruption of the configuration of components or the operation of a computer, computer system, computer network, or telecommunications network. Credit card numbers, personal identification numbers, digital certificates, physical and virtual keys, access codes, or authorization codes that are used to protect electronic transactions. I further move that notice of this meeting and its tentative agenda be posted as required by law.
Okay.
Motion is second, roll call, Eric Bosler,
Yes.
Dave Bova,
Yes.
Charlie Crowther,
Yes.
Nolan Dunsey,
Yes.
Kim Kirchner, Eric McDaniel, yes, Martha Reesinger,
Yes.
motion carries 7-0.
Make a mention about the Hall of Fame ceremony going on Friday.
We do have the induction to the Hall of Fame of our 5, I guess it's our freshman class of Hall of Fame inductees. And those folks will be on campus, either the inductee themselves or representatives of their families will be on campus all day on Friday. We will have a formal introduction of those folks at the PAC at 5 o'clock, and then they will be introduced again at the football game just prior to the beginning of the game, I think is correct. And so we're very excited about that, and look forward to doing that this Friday.
I move to go to closed session and closed record and a closed vote after a short break.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?